where Amoonguss is able to get a KO. But hold on to your Pokeballs, trainers. We're getting into the match here. We've got the Grimmsnarl and the Incineroar, two perfect, dynamic synergy duos out front and center against the Restricted on Ruben's side.
Okay, so THEOTIME leading with that Incineroar and Grimmsnarl, which is exactly what we saw Sebastian do in our previous round in that game too, which was really strong into an opposing Calyrex Shadow Rider lead, which doesn't now kind of offer too much, especially with just Astral Barrage and Psychic, right? But at least it does have that Encore that can kind of punish things going into a second turn, because it's not a Prankster Encore. And so we'll have to see what THEOTIME ends up locking into for this turn instead. So instead, the Zamazenta is definitely something that he needs to respect here. Fake out, quite obvious into that slot there. It's quite obvious to also maybe try and want to go for that Will-O-Wisp into that slot, as we saw Sebastian do it again in that last game, as Grimmsnarl wants to try and set up so that Lunala can eventually come in here. So I like Ruben's lead, having a lot of offensive pressure on bringing the two Restricteds, meaning that THEOTIME is not free to just set up whatever he wants.
So many choices, so many options. It looks like Calyrex doesn't want to have to make a decision on what it wants to go for here, making the adaptation. Amoonguss coming in. Looks like from THEOTIME side as well, though, you can really slow down the pace of play. Maybe go for some setup with those screens, go for a fake out to slow things down. But it looks like the Incineroar doesn't want to slow things down too much. It's going to turn into that adorable Terra Bug. This gives it a little bit more capability into the fighting type attacks or ground type attacks that potentially could come through. I think the critical thing, however, is, of course, this body press. That's exactly what the threat was on Zamazenta's side, and being a beautiful bug, it's able to take that so much better, as the Grimmsnarl just follows straight up with this Spirit Break. That's going to just do a little bit of chip. I think critically, not only would have broken the Focus Sash on the opposing Calyrex, but was trying to get that special drop as well.
Yeah, so a really good targeting attempt there into that slot, but yeah, Ruben playing it nice and safe, getting in that Amoonguss, which is so good at sponging up any sort of attacks. Obviously, not as much of Flare Blitz, but it's very safe here because THEOTIME's Incineroar doesn't have Flare Blitz. So actually a really nice bring into this matchup where Ruben's kind of recognizing where the weaknesses and the trade-offs that THEOTIME has had to make on his own team. So now, going to the next turn, what do you do here? Grimmsnarl has already gone for a Spirit Break, and so you're still on the field wanting to get up those screens, ideally. You've committed your whole item to getting up those screens, and that Light Clay, you really want them up at some point. And also, we've got the Terra already committed on Incineroar too. But it looks like actually we're going to see the switch out instead.
No screens quite yet. I mean, turn one, both these Pokemon went on the offensive to deal with that Calyrex, but hey, maybe you need to bring in the big powerhouse in the form of that Miraidon, sending the Electric Train on the field. This is also going to help out from any potential spores coming through from the Amoonguss. You cannot go to sleep if you're grounded on that Electric Train. The Heavy Slam doing minimal damage as the Incineroar can follow up with that Will-O-Wisp. It finds its mark down to the Zamazenta. That's going to give it a little bit of chip, but also neutralize its offensive pressure.
Wow, really great call there from THEOTIME.
Oh,
Poison does help, obviously, for Ruben there. Putting this Miraidon at a little bit of a timer now. But yeah, really nice call to just go for that Will-O-Wisp, because this is not Safety Goggles Incineroar. It has a Rocky Helmet. It's not Terra Grass either. That Amoonguss could have just Rage Powdered away a Will-O-Wisp, keeping the Zamazenta really safe. But instead, goes for the Sludge Bomb instead, maybe trying to just KO that Grimmsnarl as we saw with that double up. Heavy Slam plus Sludge Bomb would have been enough. But no, the Miraidon switch, also really great, not only defensively to keep Grimmsnarl safe, but also to shut off even a Spore option. So THEOTIME replaying this very nicely. Ruben doing a nice defensive switch into Amoonguss, but THEOTIME saying, I can do that too now.
Yes.
Bringing it into that Restricted this time. And now it's here on the field. Choice Scarf, it's the fastest thing in the field too. You're threatening most likely a knockout into the Amoonguss with a Draco Meteor, and maybe closely followed by an Electro Drift into the Zamazenta too. So THEOTIME needs to lock into something though, and Ruben might be able to kind of respond to this with a few protects.
Yeah, there's nothing really that could have switched in to take that Draco Meteor, but it looks like THEOTIME may be predicting there could be a Protect coming through on this Amoonguss, wants to utilize the opportunity to bring that beautiful Lunala in. Doesn't look like a Protect, but it is a defensive play nonetheless. Amoonguss getting out of there, and Ruben bringing in the Rillaboom instead. This is a lovely way to override that terrain, but critically, THEOTIME one step ahead, has the Electric Terrain in the back, so when that Pokemon comes back, it's going to overwrite the terrain that Rillaboom has put into play. Heavy Slam comes through, critically breaks that Shadow Shield on Lunala, leaving it a little bit vulnerable as the parting shot will come through for its efforts, but I feel like it's a little bit in void. You've got the grassy terrain for recovery, and this Lunala's also running leftovers. That Shadow Shield will get intact very soon.
Yeah, the Zamazenta is not looking very good at the moment on the field. It's had its attack lowered, it's burned at the same time. Even if a Heavy Slam was to come into this Grimmsnarl now, given all the drops, I don't think THEOTIME's going to be worried about it at all. So it's getting to the point where, trying to use this Zamazenta to, actually do damage. It's kind of like trying to parallel park on Dondozo, you know? It's going to be really tricky. So Lunala now is in an excellent spot to start setting up that Calm Mind and just like doing what it needs to be doing to set up, right?
Yes.
And so, and as you mentioned earlier, Lou, now Miraidon is in the back. It's actually really good now to be able to switch back in and lower the damage that this Rillaboom can do. And also you have Incineroar in the back that can further limit that damage as well. So I really like THEOTIME's positioning at the moment because it would have been so obvious to just attack on that previous turn with Miraidon, but instead switching it right back out, predicting Ruben to kind of be able to reposition and get Rillaboom in instead.
I think if you're Lunala now, you want to start really setting up, closing out an endgame here. We're going to see the Calm Mind come through. It's exactly what Lunala likes to do, get a boost to its special attack and its special defense. You don't have to worry too much about the special defense right now with these physical attackers, but critically, it's about when you go on the offensive, what you're going to do. Grimmsnarl is actually out of there. We're not going to see screens come through on Grimmsnarl's side, so now Lunala really has to cope with the defensive capabilities it's got naturally.
Okay, so there's the Wood Hammer that, yeah, does take down Grimmsnarl very handily. So a nice play from Ruben to kind of make the most of it, because this Rillaboom looks like it's going to be one of the core pieces of like trying to dismantle THEOTIME's team. Yeah. Especially getting around any of the special defensive boosts that Lunala can set up with Calm Mind. It's still not going to be able to take on the Rillaboom hits very well. But at least now you have Miraidon in.
Yeah, exactly. Miraidon overriding that terrain is now having its Hadron engine activated, and it can now be so ferocious with something like an Electro Drift, maybe trying to go down into this Zamazenta, or to be honest, Zamazenta's not doing anything. Unless you think there's going to be a switch, you can kind of ignore it and target that partner Pokemon. Ruben most likely wants to get rid of that Rillaboom into the back to reset that grassy terrain a little bit later on, but then Lunala just has free reign to go for a devastating Moongeist Beam, or do you think you can play risky and go for another Calm Mind?
It's a good question. I think another Calm Mind is going to be the play here because you want to get into the position where you can take an Astral Barrage from Calyrex.
Very true.
You don't have Wide Guard to support you, and you've spent Terra on Incineroar already for that Terra bug. So yeah, Ruben's likely playing to get in Calyrex into a position where he can just click that Astral Barrage button. But if you can maybe get another Calm Mind or something, you'll feel a lot safer in front of it.
Well, Amoonguss is going to switch out for its Grass-type partner here as the Draco Meteor comes through. That is going to connect, and Amoonguss is able to take that just about hanging on. Great bolt on that Pokemon as Big Splash comes through. It's going to be another body press into Miraidon, and now it is time for the Lunala to unleash the capabilities he has got. It calls on the moon, goes for this Moongeist Beam, and finishes up on this Amoonguss. I like the double-up play here. Either, you know, the Rillaboom stayed in, the double-up would have likely got the KO, and then at the same time, you've got Amoonguss coming in. You're able to remove it. It could redirect into the Zamazenta if needed. I think it was a very solid play from THEOTIME.
Yeah, definitely solid play. You know you're getting guaranteed damage at that point, and you're leaving Zamazenta alone, which we know at the moment is still doing nothing. And so Calyrex is now becoming a little bit more safely here, and it's probably the best time as well, because if you're THEOTIME, you most likely, the obvious play is to kind of protect and get in Incineroar, right? Agreed. And because then you know you're going to take on Calyrex's hits very well. Worst you could probably take is a like half-powered, because of the burn, body press into that slot. You could play it a little bit safer though. You could just protect and then let Miraidon go down instead. But then you run the risk of like giving that Calyrex a special attack boost if it manages to get the KO with Astral Barrage. And then you're kind of losing the 1v1 in terms of the setup.
And you have to think about the terrain a little bit as well. As much as Miraidon might want to keep his terrain in play, so maybe switch out if that Rillaboom comes back in, if you know, you go down, then Rillaboom's going to get the terrain anyway. So you have to think, is it worth keeping that terrain in check? Looks like THEOTIME wants to preserve the Miraidon in the back, and I think critically follow your strategy there, David, and bringing in the Incineroar. That's going to be in a better position to take the Astral Barrage. It doesn't have to worry so much about what Zamazenta is doing. In fact, nobody really has to worry about what Zamazenta is doing in this match at the moment. However, Ruben just going defensively, not going for the Astral Barrage right now. Maybe he's trying to scout out what THEOTIME is utilizing here as the body press comes through. Little bit of chip into that Incineroar, but the bug typing once again really helping it out. Lunala now has the opportunity to go on the offensive again. It goes for this Moongeist Beam, but it is targeting down the Zamazenta now, actually thinking it's time to get you off the field. That burn chip is going to be enough to remove it from play. Now, Ruben only has that Rillaboom and the Calyrex in play. Critically as well, it's going to lose terrain. You cannot switch it out to regain it later, so as soon as the Miraidon comes back in, electric terrain will see us through to the end game.
Wow, yeah, really nice call from THEOTIME there. Like, I mean, like, I'm a bit suspicious of that protect, honestly, on Calyrex, because you're already focused at. You know you can take at least one hit, and so even if Moongeist Beam does go into that slot, you're not going down that turn, and at least you're then getting off an Astral Barrage at some point, punishing the Incineroar coming in too. But now, yeah, Rillaboom comes in instead. Yes, you've got that fake out pressure with Calyrex, but can you still defeat this boosted now Lunala? Incineroar also has come in like this turn, so very also safely offers fake out. Yeah, very safely, exactly. So Rillaboom could only target one slot here. Do you fake out into the Incineroar to deny it, and then Lunala just goes on the offensive with a Moongeist Beam? Or do you use Rillaboom's physical damage to actually deal damage around the special defense that this Lunala has to deal the damage too. It's a lot to kind of think about in this turn at the moment. I don't think we can cover it all, but Calyrex Shadow Rider is going to do something with its Astral Barrage, it looks like here.
As you said, David, there's so many moves and counter moves in utility to the end game of this game one. However, Terrestrialization was still in the back pocket for Ruben, trying to boost up the Astral Barrage potential, particularly now the Shadow Shield has been chipped by that priority Grassy Glide. Astral Barrage will come through. There is no Y Guard. It's going to find its mark on both of Tier Team's Pokemon here. Lunala is not able to hang on. Incineroar goes down as well. That's a double KO. Ruben is back in the game.
Wow, okay, what a call out from Ruben there. Just, yeah, chipping the Shadow Shield, getting that Ash Barrage down was an amazing play right there. Unfortunately, yeah, Tier Team had a few things he could have done there to kind of get around that, but unfortunately not calling it. You could have switched to Miraidon.
Yeah.
You could have faked out the Rillaboom. You could have protected Lunala instead. But yeah, no, Ruben seen through all that. Nails that Lunala at exactly the right time to be able to swing this match in his favor.
Fortune favors the brave, and that's exactly what Ruben was able to articulate here. Miraidon could have come in, overwrit that grassy terrain and denied that priority from the Rillaboom, but no, it's now come in, poisoned, in with a forfeit, meaning Ruben is taking game one here.
Wow, okay, yeah, that suddenly swung so quickly around.
Take a breath, wow.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, we saw how like the preservation of that Calyrex was so key there to be able to deal damage through all those Calm Minds. So yeah, maybe Tier Team's probably looking back a few turns. You know, we saw that turn where he got rid of the Zamazenta.
Yeah.
That kind of really unlocks things for Ruben in some way. He kind of wants that off the field so he can get in things a bit more safely.
I agree.
Maybe a second Calm Mind there might have been quite good to actually instead get up a second special defense. Maybe you start taking Astral Barrage slightly better instead, then makes it a little bit easier in that end game. You can still heal up your Shadow Shield if Heavy Slam kind of comes into that slot instead. Yeah, I don't know. But also that whole last turn could have been slightly different too.
I think you called it perfectly earlier in the game though when I said, you know, should he go for the second Calm Mind? And you were like, yes, he's already used the Terrestrialization on that Incineroar. He needs a way to protect this Lunala against the Astral Barrages coming through. And as it turned out in that endgame with only the one Calm Mind, it simply wasn't enough to keep it safe, particularly considering Calyrex had the Terrestrialization that was a very late game Terrestrialization, but I think critical. Without that extra boost of the Ghost type moves, it's very likely Lunala would have stayed in play.
Yeah, exactly. I think it still would have been tricky, right? Because you've still got a lot of physical damage from Ruben's end. But yeah, I think that's probably what Tier Team wants to kind of go for here. I think the other problem as well with that game is that the Grimmsnarl didn't really do a whole lot in this match.
No.
It didn't really get up all the screens it wanted or do the disruption it wanted to do. It didn't spread Thunder Waves. There was a few good defensive switches from Ruben's end, and just Spirit Breaks didn't really pay off very much.
Broken Amoongus, right? That was all it did.
Yeah, exactly. So it was kind of like Tier Team was playing with 3 Pokemon after that.
Yeah.
So I wonder if Tier Team maybe tries to run it back a little bit, plays a little bit more around Ruben's defensive play, makes more use of it, and actually then Lunala can be in a position, maybe not with a second Calm Mind boost, but with a light screen up, that would help too.
Well, we're going to find out very soon as we jump into game 2. It is again this core of the Grimmsnarl and the Incineroar out front and center for Tier Team, but on the opposing side, we've got the Amoongus in the front now with that Calyrex.
Okay, so Ruben's still leading with that Calyrex now into Double Dark, which before he just switched out instead. But yeah, I like the Amoongus lead here though, because you are threatening Spore into both of these slots, and that means Tier Team's tempted to try and bring in Miraidon, but you really punish that if Calyrex suddenly goes on the offensive with an Astral Barrage at the moment too. So Tier Team has to really think about whether he wants to kind of go for that play or not. But what could be safer here is, say, you can fake out into Amoongus, and then Grimmsnarl can just go for whatever it wants. It's not really being threatened by anything from this Calyrex. It can't set up with a nasty plot either because it's the Encore set too.
True.
So the worst it could do is maybe Encore Incineroar on the same turn into fake out, but that's a big call to make.
Thinking maybe Spirit Break, break the Focus Sash, lower the special attack, but a switch was just so obvious into a Pokemon like the Zamazenta that is really not going to mind taking a Spirit Break and wasting a turn of Tier Team's momentum. Instead, Light Screen comes up here on Tier Team's side, wanting to protect it from any of those Astral Barrages. There was also critically no fake out. The Will-O-Wisp, however, comes through. I feel like Tier Team's in great control, able to get the burn on that Zamazenta once again. It came in fully fresh and ready, but will have to once again take that burn as the Sludge Bomb comes through. So critically, no Spore. A lot of these Pokemon, David, I don't think did what I was expecting them to do in this turn.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah, no, they're absolutely right. Again, as we've seen in the previous stream match, it's that Will-O-Wisp predict into the Zamazenta switch and was really big there. Yeah, really great, because it would have been so easy just to ignore it and let Zamazenta come in for free instead. And so, yeah, Burn Zamazenta is obviously great, but obviously we still saw RUBEN still use it to kind of pilot it to a win. So it's obviously not everything, but it's still very big here. And we can see RUBEN respecting the option from Miraidon to have come in there, set electric terrain. And so THEOTIME, knowing that that's an option, means RUBEN's probably going to want to go for that Sludge Bomb, start dishing out the damage into the Grimmsnarl. But we now know, as you said, the light screen's up. So Grimmsnarl's at least done something in this match already. Yeah. And now has the opportunity to get a Reflect up as well.
I mean, it has got the light screen up, but as you said, Amoonguss not only got damage, but it also got the poison. That's nearly, it's on the edge of 50% damage into that Grimmsnarl. So definitely put in a lot of work in this turn. It's going to switch out, however, because I feel like, as you mentioned, it's not going to do too much. You have the threat of the Spore being null and void with an electric terrain switch in, and the Calyrex rejoins for RUBEN. So now you're hopefully getting THEOTIME in a position that you're going to be able to have those Astral Barrages in play. The Reflect goes straight up, though, however, thinking, okay, well, I'm still on the field. Let's get my defenses up. With the Body Press coming through as well, Grimmsnarl able to take that so incredibly well, and to add insult to injury to the burn, Incineroar is going to follow up with the parting shot.
Yeah, so really nice play from THEOTIME, really setting everything up now. Both screens are up. Zamazenta's burnt and at -1 attack on top of that. And now, yeah, here comes Lunala in front of this Calyrex now, which is really interesting in terms of a pivot up here. Perhaps THEOTIME wanted to maybe spend the Terra Fairy option on his Lunala in this game, now that he hasn't spent on the Incineroar early in this game instead. Because otherwise, why are you bringing Lunala here, right? In front of an Astral Barrage that just, like, one-shot you Lunala last game. Yeah. So, yeah, really safe position now to get that up, because the only thing threatening Terra Fairy is the Heavy Slam from Zamazenta, which we now know is burnt and at -1 attack.
Exactly, and I feel like as well, you know, the weight of the Lunala is going to carry it a little bit as well. Heavy Slam working off the weight distribution between these two Pokemon. It can put Lunala into a great light. You have the Reflect in play, you have the Burn in play. It does give it a bit more flexibility, but at the same time, is that too obvious, and is that something RUBEN can play around?
It could be something he plays around, but also, like, there is no punish there at the moment for that Terror, at least at the moment. So let's see how THEOTIME kind of plays this turn at the moment. Because, yeah, Grimmsnarl's not doing a whole lot right now the screens have already gone up. So Miraidon instead coming in here, but yet has RUBEN kind of pivoted around for that.
All 4 restricteds on the field here, Pokemon trainers from THEOTIME and RUBEN, and it looks like RUBEN is now, THEOTIME is now going to go for that Terastallization. As you said, it is going to be on that Lunala, dropping its 4-time super effective weakness to Ghost typing and embodying the inner Fairy type. This is also going to boost up its Moonblast if it wants to go for that at any point in time. Calyrex playing defensively, going here for a Protect, possibly giving an opening for this Lunala to go for that Calm Mind and start setting up. Miraidon very happy to take that damage, and that's exactly what we see Lunala go for. The Calm Mind, utilizing the opportunity to get its special attack and special defense boosted up.
Okay, so yeah, THEOTIME's getting into the position that he really wants at the moment now. Because with that low special defense boost, suddenly the attacks from this Calyrex are really not going to do a whole lot. Lunala already has naturally very good special defense. So on top of the Shadow Shield as well, I can't see RUBEN doing very much damage here.
And the light screen.
Light screen, but what he does have, though, is the Encore on this Calyrex instead. That is pressuring down this calm-minded Lunala at the moment. So THEOTIME needs to use this Miraidon now to help deal with that. That could be in the form of a Snarl plus a Protect on Lunala here to kind of dish out the damage, and then that means you should then threaten with a second Snarl in the following turn to prevent the Encore going into that position from there.
I wonder if the Encore looks too obvious, though, and if then RUBEN's going to capitalize on that and going for the Astral Barrage, trying to catch THEOTIME off guard. The Amoonguss rejoins the field here, and we are going to see the Terastallization. This is going to be on that Lunala, of course. So now it's once again setting itself up for the Astral Barrage to do the maximum capacity damage in play. Things are a little bit different, though, however. Lunala still has a Shadow Shield intact, I believe, and you have that light screen up. So it's not going to be the same Fairy Tail that we saw happen in Game 1. Calyrex having to take a huge amount of damage from the Miraidon as well.
Okay, no Protect on Lunala here, so it's just going to be that Volt Switch into the Incineroar. RUBEN kind of head in hands at the moment, so it looks like he might have gone for the Astral Barrage, especially given that Terra Ghost that we've already seen here, and knocked the Encore. And yet, there it is, Eclad Spectile is coming out now. It's going to do a decent amount of damage, because it's a Calyrex Shadow Rider, okay?
Yep.
But behind the light screen and, through the Shadow Shield, that is almost nothing. Now, Lunala responding.
Yeah, the Terra Fairy as well, really helping out, and Calyrex goes down. It so boldly and so bravely tried to get damage on play, but as you said, all those multipliers, the Calm Mind boost, the light screen, the Terra Fairy, everything was just keeping Lunala in the game so beautifully in contrast to Game 1. And to make it even worse for RUBEN, there's leftovers on there. So it's going to be able to recover and get that Shadow Shield intact once again.
Yeah, exactly. That's the power of the leftovers and this amazing ability on Lunala. that, like, kind of very much mimics Terrapagos, isn't it? It's like, it's still set up Carmine, and then once it's at full health, it has this kind of cool ability. But you're like, the typing and the amount of damage that you do and the type of damage you do is very different. And so people's answers in Terrapagos might not be the same as into a Lunala instead. So Tier Team is really, like, just putting on a masterclass as how to protect this Lunala now. And, I mean, I can't really see a lot of ways to, like, deal with it at the moment.
That's the thing, Ruben doesn't have a lot of options. You have the Zamazenta that would normally be quite a ferocious powerhouse into a fairy type, but it's burnt. You have the Reflect up as well. It makes things very difficult. Amoonguss, yes, you can maybe go for something like the Sludge Bomb, but we've just seen how little an Astral Barrage with the boost that it had can deal to this Pokemon, so I don't know what Amoonguss is going to be able to do here.
Yeah, so not a whole lot as the attack goes straight into the Lunala there, not doing a whole lot of damage as the Dunyemoh comes into Amoonguss there. That parting shot lowering the physical and the special attacking stats of that Amoonguss, as it's going to switch out obviously into, well, kind of whatever it wants, really.
I mean, my question is, what is the fourth and final Pokemon on Ruben's side here? If it is something like that Rillaboom maybe, then you can overwrite this terrain, you can try and get some priority damage off, and particularly on the physical sgoing that can maybe bypass some of the Calm Mind boost that Lunala has got the capabilities to deal with.
Yeah, so a double into that Lunala there, yeah, isn't going to do a whole lot. As you mentioned, Lou, that Leftovers is slowly kind of getting back up to the Shadow Shield again, so it's not going to really take much damage at all. So going to the next turn now, you've still got a very boosted Lunala, you've got a Grimmsnarl that's in a great position too, that to, like, just throw out a lot of attacks. And then Tier Team could obviously just keep it safe as well and switch back into Incineroar, lower even more damage. Yeah, like, even if we get to the position where Electric Train expires, say Lunala goes to sleep, then what? You need to deal the damage into it. Leftovers probably can still recover so much, you know? Like, so Ruben is, I would imagine, has Rillaboom in the back, though.
Okay, yeah.
Yet to be revealed, so you can maybe switch it in and suddenly get a Spore in at the same time. And then, so that's why I think why we've seen Teo Team locking the switch into the Miraidon right now, because if Zamazenta switches, it switches first into Rillaboom, and then Grimmsnarl will switch. And actually, no, it's the foresight that we've seen from Ruben.
We're never going to know. I liked your path to victory you were carving out there. I think it would have been a very interesting endgame, but it looks like Ruben is just saying, no, 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 we're not going to play this out. We're going to jump into the game 3 because he had such great momentum in the endgame towards of that game 1. But critically for me, Tier Team has done 2 things very well in both games 1 and 2. Yes, I know he lost the first game, but he has burnt that Zamazenta in both games. And that meant both times Ruben is kind of playing at 3 Pokemon and lost one of the restricted, and particularly in that game 2. All Tier Team had to do to close out the victory was just like target the partner Pokemon, leave the Zamazenta, you can clean it up at the end. What is it going to do to you?
Yeah, 100%, and that's kind of what we saw. You knew he couldn't do anything about that. But what we could see the option of, though, is Ruben just trying to play a little bit safer with that Zamazenta and trying not to switch it in on a target that's potentially going to be Will-O-Wisp.
Yeah.
That same play that Teo Team did. And what you can do by that is trying to be threatening that Incineroar from the get-go, so that it doesn't have the opportunity to go for that Will-O-Wisp. Because what we saw happen in the first game is that Teo Team felt the pressure to Terra that Incineroar into the Terra Bug. And that made the endgame a lot smoother when the Cataracte Shadow was then able to deal with the Lunala, because it couldn't tear away from its Ghost Resistance. So maybe if we saw the same sort of positioning where Ruben could get that Zamazenta to pressure the Incineroar to do that, at least then you trade a Terra for a Will-O-Wisp, and we saw that was enough for him to win it.
I think that's a great observation, actually. The terrestrialization was key for Tier Team here. Being able to unlock that Terra Fairy did give Lunala a lot of flexibility, a little bit of breathing room, and that's something Ruben cannot afford to give this Lunala. In Game 1, being able to unleash the Terra on the Incineroar, I think, was great in that moment, stopping the body presses from dealing with Incineroar. Incineroar is such a key Pokemon on Tier Team's side, but then it was at the sacrifice of Lunala in the endgame. So Tier Team, I think, has to maybe think, how do I keep this Lunala in the safe position? And Ruben has to think, how do I deny this completely? Looks like the opportunity he's trying to go for is that Amoonguss and Zamazenta once again, and Tier Team sticking with what he knows. It's going to be Grimmsnarl and the Incineroar. Now my question is the Will-O-Wisp going to land a 3rd time?
Well, I'm going to say I doubt it, because I think Ruben's prepared exactly for this, because you've got Zamazenta that needs to deal with this Incineroar, but you've also got something that can redirect away a Will-O-Wisp from it as well. Now, we saw in Game 1, actually, Tier Team just went for the Will-O-Wisp, even despite that positioning, but Ruben still is getting Tier Team to respect it now, at least, at the very least. So, yeah, Zamazenta now pressuring with super effective damage into either target is definitely where Ruben wants to be now, because it was those supportive pieces that were allowed Tier Team to make Lunala so safe. So yeah, what do you do here? Do you try and Spore in the front of Miraidon that could come in? But at least a screen's going up first.
Yeah, that's a Reflect on the field right now. As the body press comes straight down into that Incineroar, is going to be able to take it. We didn't see a Fake Out come through, so assuming the Will-O-Wisp is going to come in play. And critically as well, there was no Rage Powder on that Amoonguss, so for a third time, it actually happens. Will-O-Wisp connects down onto the Zamazenta, and Ruben has one of his restricted Pokemon completely neutralized in play. Amoonguss is finally going to be able to do what it does best and land a Spore, but I think the damage is already dealt. You can wake up from a Spore, you cannot shake off a burn.
Yeah, very true. So unfortunately, yeah, Zamazenta burnt yet again here. But I think this is the first sleep we've actually seen in this entire set, despite Amoonguss being in every single game. So at least Ruben kind of calling that nicely at the same time. So trading status for status now. But Zamazenta's still in a position to still threaten decent damage here. Like, Grimmsnarl still doesn't want to take a super effective Heavy Slam, even at -2. So it's still a lot of ways to kind of still whittling away the supportive pieces. And again, Amoonguss can go on the offensive here with a Sludge Bomb to both of these targets too, particularly that Grimmsnarl that feels threatened enough that we're seeing a switch out.
Yeah, Grimmsnarl not wanting to utilize the opportunity to set up a light screen to, you know, void any of that potential damage that Amoonguss could deal out. Critically, I think, going to try and stop any future spores, setting that electric train up on the field and wanting to capitalize on the fact that this Zamazenta is neutralizing Calyrex is indeed not on the field. Body press is going to come down into Miraidon, do just a little bit of chip damage as the Spore does, of course, fail thanks to that electric train. Now, in this next turn, the speed advantage clearly on Tier Team side. Can Ruben adjust accordingly?
Well, if Rillaboom is in the back yet again for Ruben, then he still has the option of switching in Rillaboom and then sporing the Miraidon slot, which at the moment is going to be, like, largely uncontested as Miraidon is already on the field and still can't get back in. So there's, like, that play that's going on there, but that still means Lunala is still lurking in the back, ready to come in yet again. And now you've also got a position where Draco Meteor could just come out into this and Amoonguss and deal a lot of damage too. But I think, yeah, here's the Rillaboom play. I mean, Rillaboom as well doesn't want to take a Draco Meteor, but it has that Assault Vest, so it's going to be able to have a little bit of flexibility, and Amoonguss so bulky, it's likely going to be able to hang on. Incineroar going to just completely switch out here, wants to be able to bring that Intimidate in a little bit later on, maybe try and catch the Zamazenta in the future, or this Rillaboom in play as Lunala graces us with its presence. Looks like the Volt Switch is going to come through straight away. A nice little pivot here, considering Rillaboom just joined the field, and you've got the Grassy Terrain, and if you are that Miraidon, you want to be able to bring the Electric Terrain back in play. Critically though, Grassy Terrain is in play for right now. Could we see a Spore follow-up? Yeah, we could. So Tier Team's predicting this, I think, and like being able to get that Volt Switch means you can get your already sleeping Incineroar in to actually take it for you. So let's see. Yes! Yeah, that's it! What a play from Tier Team there. Really nicely done. Not only is now Lunala in a great position here, you've like spent the Spore turn on Amoonguss, and now Miraidon's in the back again. It can come back in to now allow Lunala to be much safer and also lower the damage of this Rillaboom's grass moves. Like, expert positioning there from Tier Team. I have to credit his reservation, because where you've got the Miraidon in play, it must have been so tempting to try and get some big damage off, go for an Electro Drift, but instead saying, actually, I need to think a couple of turns ahead. I don't need the Spore to come through. Let's get off the field and adjust and bring in that Incineroar, just like you said. Yeah, like, really well done, honestly. Now, the question is, what do you do from Lunala's perspective now? Do you start to set up? Because there is always the chance that Ruben could try and get in Calyrex to the point that you can threaten an Encore into this Lunala. That might be how Ruben kind of needs to play this now. Yeah. So, like, but can you get it in safely in front of a Moongeist beaming Pokemon? Oh, that can always be so difficult, but at least this time it doesn't have the Calm Mind in play, so it isn't going to be dealing as much damage in this turn. The Electric Terrain does come onto the field though, so once again Amoonguss sad to not be able to Spore in this play. The Moongeist Beam is going to come through though, drawing on all of that Lunar energy and connecting down onto the Rillaboom. Thanks to the Assault Vest though, it is going to be able to take that very respectively as the U-turn comes through. Critically, I think, to re-break that Shadow Shield and allow a little bit of positioning so Rillaboom can rain on Miraidon's Parade a little bit later on and turn the field green. Okay, so what is he going to go into? That is the question. There's so many threats here. We've got all 4 Pokemon still on the field in this final game as well. There's been so much back and forth. And there's a lot of potential for everything to heal up as well. Leftovers on the Lunala, Pollen Puff on the end. No, sorry, not Pollen Puff, but the Regenerator on the end. Yes. The Amoonguss can heal itself up too. But yeah, there's that Calyrex. But yeah, Spore, unfortunately, not going to come through here. Ruben maybe trying to overextend on, maybe get catching Tier Team to overpredict a little bit. But no, keeping it nice and safe. Rylant's on the field to stop that. And I think critically as well, in contrast to games 1 and 2, this game 3, we're in a couple of turns deep and we haven't had a single KO at the moment either. Both these trainers kind of playing a little bit slow, a little bit steadier, going for these status options with the burns, poison, sleep, these different types of things. Okay, so now we're in the position where obviously Calyrex is now threatening this Lunala with a lot of damage, right? And so yeah, we saw the Terra Fairy being really good for THEOTIME in that second game. Chances are he's going to probably want to go for it again, because the main thing that's going to be threatening it is the Amoonguss Sludge Bomb. It's not the most offensive little mushroom, unfortunately.
That's true.
But it could still get the poison either way. That's probably the most thing to worry about. And you get the poison if you're Terra Fairy or not, right? So yeah, locking in that... Well, Terra Ghost, it looks like a Ruben Zensi. Again, Draven trying to capitalize, just try and get some damage on before this Lunala can set up too much.
3 for 3 on this Calyrex Shadow Rider, going for the Terra Ghost here, and it looks like the Sparkles are going to be matched on the other side of the stage by THEOTIME. It is going to be that Terra Fairy, just like you mentioned, David. So both of these trainers capitalizing on their restricted Pokemon, trying to get them in the best position in order to try and get that damage on the board. The Rage Powder comes through, Amoonguss doing its best to draw in all of the attacks and preserve its precious Calyrex by its side, as the Miraidon does go for that Snarl. So not only is that going to do great damage to Calyrex, it is lowering its special attack by 1 stage, making these Astral Barrages less formidable.
Wow, great play there. It's going to be the Astral Barrage instead, but yeah, -1 special attack. This Terra Fairy on this Lunala, it's not going to do a whole lot of damage, yeah. And even to the point where Miraidon might even be able to take another one with a responding Moongeist Beam.
Yeah, here it comes, connects right down onto that Amoonguss, does take it down into the orange zone here, but it is able to hang on. Critically, however, look at this Lunala and the leftovers recovery. It's going to be able to, if given the respite going for, you know, Protects and things, it's going to be able to heal that up. Again, Protects maybe not the safest thing in the face of an encoring Calyrex.
Yeah, exactly. So you might as well just stick with what Lunala does best and just go for the attacks. You're still not being threatened at the moment. You don't actually need those Calm Minds, do you? Because there's like maybe, yeah, again, the Amoonguss Sludge Bomb, you're still in a very strong position. You've got other ways of damage mitigation in your screens that we've had, and the Snarl that the Miraidon is providing. It's kind of the same thing, isn't it? And either way, Calyrex being that Focus Sash just needs 2 of anything, really, to go down.
Yeah, so Miraidon getting out of here, maybe wanting to make sure the terrain is preserved for later, and also not wanting to have to take an unnecessary Astral Barrage at this point in time. Incineroar, a Pokemon much better positioned to be able to deal with that, as well as anything that this Amoonguss throws its way. I think even though it's asleep, it's still just by its typing, and the fact that you can have potentially the Fake Out a little bit later on does keep Incineroar as a key Pokemon in play.
So Zamazenta's coming in now to try and help deal with something that THEOTIME could do here. I mean, like, you've still got that burn, though. It's still in a very good position. Now Rillaboom coming in, resetting that terrain here, but Miraidon expertly is now in the back yet again.
THEOTIME is always 1 step ahead of this terrain game, has the Miraidon in play. Now Lunala can once again take to the skies and connect down onto that Rillaboom. The Assault Vest does keep it in play at the moment, but again, you have leftovers on this Lunala, and now you have the grassy terrain. So it's almost like THEOTIME is happy to capitalize on grassy terrain when it's in play, getting that Shadow Shield back to full.
Yeah, there it is, back to full, unfortunately. And there's the more of the reveal of the speed interactions of our Pokemon here, which isn't something that we need to be too concerned about, given that Zamazenta's not doing a whole lot of damage. Rillaboom is the main thing that's going to be able to do damage into this Lunala. But now, yeah, taking a Moongeist Beam on the way in is not what you want to see. And with Miraidon in the back, that can just easily come in, lower the damage of this Rillaboom's attacks. You can't, like, crit through a lack of terrain boost either.
Yeah.
So, like, that's also still quite safe, even if a crit comes out, I think. And so, yeah, I think that's what we're seeing here. Not wanting to contend with, like, fake out shenanigans. Incineroar loves to be in the back anyway, so it can come back in. So THEOTIME just really strong in this position right now.
It's nice to see you, Incineroar, but it's also nice to see you leave to bring Miraidon back onto the field and set this electric terrain. The Fake Out critically going into the Lunala, saying, no, that Shadow Shield needs to be broken once again, but critically it's not followed up by anything, so the leftovers is going to be able to regain that back up. The body press was trying to go down into that Incineroar. Looks like Miraidon's going to have to take a little bit of chip, but once again, Miraidon's in the driving seat. It's switched off the priority Grassy Glide, so you don't have to worry about that either. And to be honest, I want to see THEOTIME jump on the offensive now. I want to see damage. I want to see a KO. We're still without a KO in this game 3.
Yeah, we are, unfortunately. I mean, like, all THEOTIME needs to do here now is just get Miraidon back out. Yeah. Because if Ruben gets Rillaboom back out, you want to get your Miraidon back in.
Yes.
In case Ruben wants to get their Rillaboom back in. That's the name of the game. And so, yeah, we see THEOTIME locking into kind of that Volt Switch is kind of unpunished at the moment to kind of get it out. Incineroar can come back in fairly safely too. And then, yeah, as you see, Lunala can go on the offensive here. Rillaboom with that Assault Vest cannot protect, so Moongeist Beam to that slot, very, very safe. And that's something coming in from that Rillaboom is going to take the hit, or Rillaboom has to take it itself and go down, and then that win condition's gone too. So the question is, how can Ruben actually get into the point deal with this Lunala, and that, I think, is saving the Rillaboom. That's going to have to be key.
I always feel like he needs the Zamazenta to go down so he can bring in a Pokemon safely and go on the offensive, because that Zamazenta is just doing nothing on the field. Tier Team even able to capitalize on it by getting decent damage, getting the pivot, but not getting the KO, so that you only really have to worry about that partner slot. So expertly done. Look at that. Barely anything into the Grimmsnarl. Lunala once again rising up into the skies, bringing down this Moongeist Beam. Rillaboom, the first Pokemon felled in this Game 3, goes down. You don't even have to worry about the terrains anymore. And critically, Ruben, yes, gets the free switch into a Pokemon here, but it's not on the Zamazenta slot. So Zamazenta, once again, really applying no pressure whatsoever. Tier Team in a prime position to be able to get damage on the board critically as Reflect has gone off and Grimmsnarl's back in.
Yeah, perfect positioning yet again for Tier Team. Just really not seeing any outs at the moment for Ruben. And Ruben's probably trying to wait for Tier Team to give him a Protect or give him a Calm Mind that he can Encore into. Just something. But no, Tier Team's just staying true, going for that Moongeist Beam. But I suppose something that he could contend with is the power points left on that Moongeist Beam. We see he's down to 4 left. Maybe if Ruben tries to stall out Moongeist Beam, then maybe he's only stuck into Moonblast, and then that might be something. But again, like Moongeist can probably take that a little bit better, redirect that away.
Yeah.
But then how do you stall out 4 of those with the Protects that you've got? Oh, it's a really uphill battle right now.
4 doesn't seem a lot, but it might very well be enough. I think, you know, you just need the 1 Moongeist Beam to deal with the Calyrex, and then, yeah, maybe throw 2 of them into the Amoonguss. Amoonguss critically as well, if it wants to switch out here, it can reset its, you know, it can use this Regenerator ability, but you just don't want to afford the switch into your Calyrex. Light Screen actually critically comes up here. I think the Grimmsnarl realizing actually we don't need to worry about setting up our Reflex anymore, because the only Pokemon that I really have to worry about is the special attacker in the back of that Calyrex. Here we go, number 5 of the Moongeist Beams into the Amoonguss. Still not enough to be able to get the KO in play, so allowing the Sludge Bomb to come through. Respectable, little bit of chip. That's going to take a little bit more of that leftovers recovery to get back in touch.
I like what Ruben's trying there. Like, getting a poison at least would like mitigate the healing on this Lunala, but no poison unfortunately on that Sludge Bomb. So yeah, Ruben like really back into the ball. Health is so low, and we see the forfeit lock as well. Tier Team taking this match 2-1.
Congratulations, Tier Team. What an incredible display of Lunala action. Not only that, but being able to have the utility of pivoting supremacy with Incineroar, Miraidon,